back, baby. I'm back. I'm back, baby. I'm back. Back with the swing of things. In these savage YouTube streets. I'm back yet again, baby. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. All right. You know, normally I don't do these videos. I normally do them on my other channel, but I said this needs to be heard. All right. So normally I do this type of video on my opinion-based channel, but I said, yeah, we'll do it on this channel, right? Get some giggles out of it, some clicks and giggles. Get some clicks and giggles to the bizzle. So Charles Barkley, and he's been on a tear, saying a lot of questionable stuff. And I'm beginning to think Charles Barkley, you know how the older you get, the more you start saying and doing stupid stuff. There used to be a show called Kids Say the Darnest Things. Bill Cosby was the host, and they would have kids all around the world go to his show and say some questionable things. The darnest thing. That's why they labeled it Kids Say the Darnest Thing. I think ABC should relaunch that show and rebranch that show and call it Things Charles Barkley Says the Darnest Things. And he's been saying a lot of questionable stuff about Black Lives Matter, police brutality. He's been consistent. Now, the one thing about Charles is, like him, love him, or hate him, he stays pretty consistent, all right? So if he says something stupid, he's going to consistently say something stupid. And sometimes I wonder and wish that Charles, do anyone tries to talk to Charles? Do Charles bounce ideas around people? Because that's what Charles Barkley gonna have to probably do. He's gonna have to get somebody around him to he can bounce ideas off of, see if this is a good idea or not. Because I think Charles is freelancing a lot of his ideas. But nevertheless, let's get into this topic. So Charles Barkley is on record of saying Kevin Durant is a bus rider, not a bus driver. When they were talking about Kevin Durant when he joined the Golden State Warriors. Let me repeat that one more again. Kevin Durant is more of a bus driver than a bus rider. I mean, a bus rider instead of a bus driver. That's what happens now. I'm starting to act like Charles. I think I done caught Charles' disease of saying the darnest things. I just said the darnest things.
Thank you for choosing McDonald's. How may I help you today?
Yes, can I have a large sweet tea?
Large sweet tea?
Yeah, let me just have the, just give me a large sweet tea, a McDouble, and a small fry.
A McDouble and a small fry?
Yes, ma'am.
Total $4.68.
All right. So Charles Barkley got on, I don't know if this was on TV or television or not, but Charles Barkley said that Kevin Durant, when he signed to the Golden State Warriors, who won 2 titles with the Golden State Warriors, possibly he could have won 3 titles, but that's neither here nor there, was MVP. Charles Barkley said, quote, Kevin Durant is a bus rider, not a bus driver. Instead of Basically, he's saying Kevin Durant is not a leader. He's not elite. He's not a franchise player. Kevin Durant is a hanger owner, okay? Kevin Durant doesn't change the way basketball is being played. He's not an influencer, okay? He's not a star. He's not a superstar. You know, when you say when you call out a player and you basically say a player is more of a bus rider instead of a bus driver, you're basically saying he's not a leader. And better yet, that team can probably do it without you because you are a bus rider. You're not a bus driver, okay? You don't lead anybody anywhere. You don't lead nobody to the promised land. You sort of just sit back and kick it and allow others to lead you to the promised land. That's what I'm gathering from Charles Barkley. He could have said a lot of things, and a lot of people probably would have co-signed to it. Could have said a lot of things, and we're about to get into it. Could have said a lot of things. Thank you, ma'am. He could have said a lot of things, a lot of, Hey, what's up, man? You too, sir. He could have said a lot of things, and it would have made sense. For an example, I'm pretty sure somebody is going to be watching this video and go, well, what could have he said differently, or what could he have said that probably would have made some type of sense, okay? Charles Barkley could have said, well, without the Golden State Warriors, without Steph, Clay, and Draymond, Kevin Durant would have never sniffed a title. And, it would have had some validity to it. I mean, he tried to get a title with the Oklahoma City Thunder when they played the Miami Heat. And that, and that team, he had Russell Westbrook himself and James Harden, as well as a cast of other players. They had the coach, they had the owner, and they also had the guy who orchestrated the moves to get these players, Sam Presti. And they had all that ammunition, and they lost to the Miami Heat that was probably constructed with and it had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and one LBJ, LeBron James, and they had some other players, as well as Pat Riley, as well as Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat organization, right? And if he would have said that, it would have had some validity to it, but then overall people would have still say, still at the end of the day, you can't sit up there and say he's a bus rider instead of a bus driver, right? Because remember, the Golden State Warriors lost the other year before they signed Kevin Durant. That was the whole purpose of them signing Kevin Durant anyway. They needed one more piece to get over the hump because they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And one could argue, well, the Golden State Warriors probably wouldn't have won those last two titles if it wasn't for KD. So it would have had some validity, but more than not, people would have still gave Kevin Durant his props for going to the Golden State Warriors and winning 2 chips there. Instead of saying, well, he just went to Golden State Warriors just to ride on the coattails of those other players. You could say, well, I hear you and all. I don't think Kevin Durant I don't think Kevin Durant is a bus rider. He is a bus driver, and you can sum it up to his career before he got to the Golden State Warriors. All right, he was pretty much the leader of the Golden State Warriors. I mean, of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Even though people, there was a lot of support and a lot of fans giving praise to Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant fits the mold of an ISO player, of the player that you can champion for. You know, he's athletic. He can move up and down the court. You know, Kevin Durant was a little different. He was 7'1". He can dribble the ball. He can shoot anywhere on the court. He was just a unique, different player, and people couldn't gravitate to that. And they could gravitate and understand more with Russell Westbrook. That's why even when Kevin Durant left, a lot of people were showing Russell Westbrook a lot of love because he chose to stay. Because people can identify with him more, okay? But this, what Kevin Durant is saying, I mean, what Charles Barkley is saying, is sort of blasphemy. And I think this could go off one or two ways. Either Charles Barkley didn't have enough Folger in his cup, or he's trying to spark conversation. But when you think about it, it's not really that much to talk about. I don't think there's anyone on anywhere around this world that's going to say Kevin Durant is a nobody. This nobody. When he left the Warriors, everybody wanted to sign Kevin Durant, including LBJ. So let's get into Charles Barkley, right? And to understand Charles Barkley, you have to understand Charles Barkley's history with today's players. Charles Barkley cannot identify with today's players because today's players are built differently, all right? Today's players from a distance are not very competitive. Today's players from a distance will want to build friendship with other players on other teams instead of making rivals with other players from other teams. Today's players are focused overall. They're not eat, sleep, drink basketball 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 a day. Now today's players, they got their hands on multiple things: politics, social injustice, entertainment, business opportunities. Today's, in Charles Barkley era, normally when players start thinking about the next life after sports, you sort of notice it at the tail end of their career, when they're not that same player, when they're saying to themselves, okay, I got to do something else with my life. Okay, and they go into commentary, they go into they do sports talk shows, they own car dealerships, restaurants, a few go into politics, but they normally do all of these activities at the end of their career. Well, at the end of their career, or when they're out of the league, when they're trying to figure things out. Today's players are not like that. They're not built that way. Today's players dabble in multiple facets. Okay? So today's player isn't built, and that's the problem with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley cannot identify with these players because he's not cut from that same cloth. Now, a lot of it is a generational gap, okay? But a lot of it has to do with, today's players, like LeBron James. They want to dabble into everything. And Charles Barkley has a distaste for today's players. Now, Charles Barkley, from a distance, feel like today's players don't want it all. Today's players are perfectly fine playing their whole career in basketball and don't even sniff a championship, which if you really do the math, only a small percentage of NBA players get an opportunity to go into the go into the finals. And Charles Barkley is the type of player where, and he talked about this on many occasions, that how he was upset at himself that he did not get an opportunity to finally win the big one. Okay, he had several opportunities to win the big one. His biggest opportunity was with the Phoenix Suns. All right. Now, a lot of players are going to come at Charles. Kevin Durant is going to come after Charles because Kevin Durant, trying to say this lightly, but Kevin Durant is thin-skinned. He's a thin-skinned type of individual. Okay? So, best believe, if Kevin Durant is going to argue with a nobody on Twitter, what makes you think he's not going to argue or speak up for himself against Charles Barkley? Not to mention the fact they don't really have a great relationship, Charles Barkley or Kevin Durant. So, Charles Barkley does not understand today's player. Like I said, today's player is built differently than the era Charles Barkley was into. I think, and that rubs Charles Barkley the wrong way, and you can tell when he does Turner Sports, when he's when they're doing the highlights, he sort of jokingly, candidly talk about players constantly. And a lot of people will look at it as Charles Barkley just hate, he just hate. And that's not, it could be the case, but I think it's more so to the fact that Charles Barkley has a disdain for today's player. Now, he feels like today's players are lazy. Now, Kevin Durant, this is what I was about to say. Kevin Durant is going to say, well, at least I won a championship. At least I was the MVP of not only the regular season, but the finals. You, my guy, didn't even win a title. So how are you going to talk about me being a bus rider when you've been a bus rider throughout your career? You was a bus rider of the Phoenix Suns. You was a bus rider of the Houston Rockets. You was a bus rider on the tail end of the Philadelphia 76ers. All right, and a lot of people are going to come at Charles. And that's going to be the first thing they're going to do. They're going to attack Charles Barkley's achievements. Okay? Which, when you think about it, if everyone had that same career as Charles Barkley, I think they will be good with it. Not to mention the fact Charles Barkley, halfway through his career, well, and mostly in his prime, he really didn't take care of his body. Okay, there's a reason why they call him the round mound of rebounds. Okay, so Charles Barkley, from a distance, has a disdain for today's players. And a lot of people are going to look at it as Charles Barkley is just hating. He's just a hater, all right? Because he did this with LeBron James, all right? And the funny thing about Charles Barkley, there's a lot of older NBA players that feel the exact same way like Charles Barkley feels about today's players. Today's players, and this is not my perspective, but today's players have this image of not, about competition. I think, and a lot of people go, well, competition died out of the NBA. Now everybody wants to be everybody's friend. Nobody really wants to go for the juggler. Nobody don't want to go for the kill shot, okay? And that's why a lot of older players identify with Kobe, all right? Identify, and more so with Kobe. And after Kobe, they can't identify with these players. Now they'll give them their respect. They'll give them their flowers, but they just don't necessarily agree with with today's players. And Kevin Durant is today's player. Now more than ever, today's players have a lot of control. They can dictate who they want to play for, who they want as coach, who they want in the organization. They can promote their own friends in the organization. I remember talking about this. And I did a video about this years ago, how this is where the NBA is going to shift to. You're going to shift into a league where the players control everything, dictate everything, personnel, coaching, ownership, decisions. And it's starting with the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it's been starting, but it really going to start where you're going to have a franchise that's going to be held up by the players, and that's pretty much the Brooklyn Nets. And I'm telling you guys, if the Brooklyn Nets crash and burn, that's going to be the last hoorah for players controlling everything. And it's even affecting sports agencies. Now Clutch Sports is a primary leader for players to sign to at Clutch Sports. So now these power super agents, sports agents, they can barely sign anybody, right? So that's already when LeBron James leaves basketball, he's going to have influence as far as where players go when it comes to signing. When it comes to overall power in organizations, he's also going to have that as well, because he's got a lot of his friends sprinkled in through a lot of organizations, through a lot of NBA teams. High level, mid-level, he has his friends, he has his personnel already embedded in a lot of organizations. So he's going to control some of the organizations. And when you control some of the organizations, the bigger the power, the bigger the voice. So he's already going to be an influencer off the court. All right. Not to mention he's going to have Nike backing him. And this is the next phase of it. Now, some owners are pushing back against this. All right, they have, they have figured a way how to change the contract where as far as free agency, as far as signing max contracts. Max contracts used to be a big deal. The Larry Bird contract. Do anyone remember that? Where a team couldn't lose a high-profile superstar. Well, they're losing them superstars anyway. So this is what Charles Barkley and other former players, as well as front office personnel, owners, coaches, they're fearing this moment. And I think Charles Barkley is one of the foot soldiers that's willing to take a stand against it. And I think when he says, I think Charles Barkley this could come off as Charles Barkley being totally ignorant. He probably didn't drink any Folgers. Or this could be a move for Charles Barkley. So that's all I got to say about it. Guys, tell me what you think. I'll holler at y'all later. Deuces.